And we are starting an afternoon. We've got 5 more teams coming your way. John Fanta, Rob Doster starting the afternoon with the head coach of the Dayton Flyers, Anthony Grant, along with Javon Bennett. And guys, it is great to have you here. UD, the passion of the fan base, the passion within the program, it speaks for itself. And this is a team coming off the year that you guys had. Javon, we'll start with you. As you're gearing up for this upcoming season, what would you say are the biggest things that stand out to you when you look at the strength of your group?
I would say for us, I feel like we're a very versatile group. We have a bunch of new guys coming in from different places, and I feel like, we all have the same mindset when we come together, that we want to win and compete. And I feel like when we bring that together, it's really good. So I feel like defensively, if we do that, we can do really good.
I want to ask you this. The first time you met this young man compared to now, what do you remember about first meeting Javon Bennett, and what can you say about the guy that he's become for you?
Yeah, well, I think, when you spend time with Javon, I had a chance to watch him on film when he was at Merrimack, and you meet him in person, he's a competitor. And I think that's the biggest thing that stood out to me meeting him, is he had a fire in his eyes that he believed in himself, and he wanted to be a part of something, a program that he fit and that believed in him. And, with the 2 years that he's played, I think he's really established himself, as one of the premier players in this league. We've asked him to play a variety of roles for us, from, point guard to off the ball to everything in between. And he's done that. I think, he's poised to have a great year this year for us with the work that he's put in.
So you said he's one of the premier point guards in the conference. Isn't he also one of the premier recruiters in the conference, right? You were the lead on getting Jordan Durkak, right?
Yeah. When I heard he was in the transfer portal, I kind of, put it in the coach's ear, like, we got a guy that I played with, my freshman year, that he can help us win. And, he has a good, energy. And, when he came on a visit, it was kind of a done deal, when he saw the arena and all that stuff.
Talk to me about his game a little bit. What can Dayton fans expect to see out of him this season that maybe, you didn't see last year at Rutgers?
Just somebody that wants to win. He's willing to do whatever it takes, to help the team win, whether it's rebounding, setting good screens. I feel like he's kind of a bruiser, somebody that's going to do the dirty work and, fill in those gaps that we need. So
yeah, those are guys that like Dayton basketball, right? You need guys like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. I think I had a chance to watch him watch Jordan when I was watching Javon, when they were at Merrimack, and I loved him then, so when he made himself available in the portal, that was a no-brainer for me. And obviously with what Mon had to say about who he was as a person, his character, his work ethic, and then you get to know him. I think his character and his work ethic speak for themselves.
Yep.
Coach, when you go into the portal, how do you try to match it up with the personality of your team and your staff? And how would you say the pieces that you brought in, if you take a look at them, change maybe the complexion of your actual team, the different ways that you might be able to play this season?
Yeah, John, I think that's a great question. And the truth of the matter is it's really an unknown, to be honest with you. You can do as much homework as you want to do in terms of the character and the work ethic. And obviously you watch, the talent on film, and you see from a basketball standpoint, you think it fits. And so we tried to be really intentional with adding pieces that we felt like would fit together. And, obviously we haven't played a game up to this point, but I think, what we were able to put together, they gel well together, up to this point. And that's such a critical part of you being able to have a winning team and a team that will support each other, is that they get along. And so far our group has done a really good job of meshing.
All right, I got a little trivia for you guys, okay? Last season in college basketball, there were 3 players that averaged 13 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.5 steals, and 1.5 blocks. One of them was Nick Clifford, who was a top 30 pick, top 25 pick in the NBA draft, right? Another one of them, Yaxel Lindenborg, who would have been a top 25 first-round pick in the draft had he stayed. Now he's at Michigan. Do you know who the third guy is? Keontae Jones.
Hey.
You knew where I was going with that one. Huh? Break his game down for me. What can we expect to see out of him? Because I'm excited, man.
Yeah.
13-9-4.
Mm-hmm. He's somebody that's very explosive. I feel like athletically, there's not many guys that can, do what he does on the basketball court. And I feel like that shows with his stats, rebounding wise and, getting to the basket. I feel like he's going to really help us, especially in transition.
Was that what you were looking for when you started recruiting?
I think, Keontae, to me, the stats, they speak for themselves, but I think just his presence, the way he works, I think it's one of those guys that he's a multiplier, what I call it, in terms of he's a guy that if you're playing with him and you see the energy he brings, you see the way he plays, makes you want to, emulate that. It makes you want to go out and bring that to the court as well. And, you can't have enough guys like that on the floor. So I think he's a great addition for our group. Yeah.
When I look at the way that this roster has kind of come together, right, for you this season, it looks a lot to me like the 2020 team where you got a point guard like Javon that can kind of get into the paint and make things happen. And you got shooters and versatile guys from that 2 to the 4 spot. And you got a big fella inside that you could throw, you throw it to the top of the square, he's going to go up there and get it. And it just feels like this is the kind of team that's, one, built like a modern basketball team, but two, kind of in the Anthony Grant wheelhouse a little bit.
Rob, I'm going to caution you. When you start throwing out stuff like that to our fan base, they can get a little excited.
The fan base,
so
they're passionate. Was it 77 straight sellouts?
Yeah, I like the group that we have. We still have not, be honest with you, at this stage, had everybody together and available as of yet. But I think just the chemistry that you see when they're with each other, off the court, around each other. I think that's critical. That team that you're speaking about had that chemistry. Now we've got to be able to put it together on the court, on both sides of the ball, and that's a work in progress for us.
You mentioned that they had chemistry. They also had a guy by the name of Obi Top. And when you see when guys that you're recruiting see what he's doing in the NBA and see the success that he's having, how much does that help you when you are reaching out to maybe players that don't necessarily realize what Dayton is as a program?
Well, I think it certainly helps. I think Obi is a great ambassador, not only for Dayton, but I think just our basketball program, but for the city of Dayton. I think, it certainly helps, when recruits can look and see a national player of the year that came from Dayton, a guy that's a first-round draft pick, and a guy that, most recently just played for an NBA championship. So I think we're very proud of what he's accomplished. And I think, he's, I wouldn't say the latest or laid the foundation, but a big part of the foundation of what Dayton Flyer basketball is all about.
I see you nodding over there, Javon. Is that part of what put Dayton on the map for you?
That's definitely one of the reasons. I knew about Dayton, entering the transfer portal. When they reached out, I was like, I know Obi went there, made a name for himself. They obviously didn't make it to the March Madness because of COVID, but I knew of them, so. Him just being around, he'll come back and visit us and play with us and work out with us. So just him being around is always great.
As a point guard, when you're working out and playing with Obi, that's got to be the easiest assist you ever gotten in your life, right?
Sure. Pretty much throw it anywhere, he'll get it. So it's always a great time.
Coach, let's talk about your big fella, Mr. Letang, Emil Letang, all-conference second-team selection here, heading into the season, the preseason here. I got a question for you about all-conference because it's important to me that we bring it up. But let's first start with the big fella. How much of a difference does he make day in, day out for your program, and just as a rim protector and everything else? What do you see?
Yeah, I think for Amael, the biggest thing is walking in the door as a freshman. You really don't know what he's prepared to do. And I think over the course of last year, he really improved from the beginning of the year all the way through to the point where we inserted him in the starting lineup, I think early in conference play. And, he certainly showed what the potential that he has. I think like most freshmen, he had to make that adjustment to understanding college basketball. There'll be another adjustment now because he's more familiar to our opponents as well. And so I think he's worked extremely hard in the offseason. He's had a good summer. He played with his national team over the summer, and then he's back working with us. So I'm looking forward to his progress and the next step for his career.
Now, to me, we see all the preseason stuff. I know you guys and every other team, you either look at it as a motivational thing or you look at it as it's preseason stuff. We're going to let the results do the talking. But perhaps my favorite thing that this league does is an all-defense preseason team. And that's something that this young man is on. How much pride do you take in that end of the floor? And in terms of, and then get to you on this, how of the guards that you've coached, where does he sit defensively? You first.
Yeah, no. Growing up, I was always took pride in defense. That's kind of how I made my mark on the game. I wasn't always the biggest guy, so figuring out ways I can, help out my team was on the defensive side.
Who taught you that?
Basically, my dad. He said like you're gonna be on the court by, harassing people, getting on people's skin, and guarding them 94 feet. So, I just carried that, throughout my whole, basketball career, and I feel like it's just paid off.
What about you and what you see as him as a defender?
Well, he has the potential to harass you, and to make you uncomfortable. Whether it's 94 feet or on the half court, and I think his numbers speak for themselves. And for our team to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish, I think you can look back last year and say, what our shortcoming was we weren't where we needed to be as a team on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that's a motivator for him, and it's what we talk about quite a bit here in the preseason.
Now, Rob, I think that UD Arena is one of the best atmospheres in all of college basketball, and I think everybody thinks that, and they better, because if you don't, then you're living under a rock. 77 consecutive sellouts in the arena. Coach, is it possible to fully explain the love that the community has for their Flyers?
I don't know that I have the words for it, honestly. I think we talk about it, with recruits. We talk about it, with the players that haven't experienced it yet. Probably the best example I can give you is our first year here. Our coaching staff, some of them hadn't been, at a game there before. And it was maybe a random game in December where it's, cold out and a little icy on the roads. And one of our coaches tells his wife, I don't know, if you want to come out to the game, probably won't be a good crowd here tonight. Maybe, stay home with the kids. And she says, no, I think I'll come. And he walks out and it's sold out. Everybody's there, and so it kind of gives you a feel of what it means, what Dayton Flyer basketball means to the community and the people. And it's a genuine thing just in terms of how they care about our guys.
Well, what I liken it to, how much does that matter to you, knowing that Dayton does have football, but we know basketball is the biggest show in town, knowing that when you're walking around and when it's a game day, like some of these other leagues, they have football Saturdays in November and December.
Yeah.
At Dayton, it's a 365 days a year. We love our basketball. How much does that matter to a player?
It matters a lot, just knowing that, when you go out there, you're having, 13,000 fans, supporting you and, cheering you on. It makes you want to play hard. So, every day I see that and I, go out there and put my best effort knowing that they got my back.
Where does that come from with Dayton? Like the history of that program, like how did we get to the point where this is, I mean, if you're putting 14,000 people in an arena, that's more than a lot of Power Fives are putting into their arenas.
I mean, it's a tradition, and I don't date back to this tradition, but Tom Blackburn back in the day, and you can think back in the 30s and 40s, the country was going through a lot, economically, socially, the whole deal, and Dayton Flyer basketball was something that the community could rally around. And then you fast forward to Don Donaher's era, who I played for, 25 years as a head coach at Dayton, and what he was able to accomplish, a part of an Olympic assistant coach for the Olympic team that won a gold medal. Just his legacy, I think one of the greatest college basketball coaches to ever do it. And then the guys that have come after them, you've had guys that have had a lot of success. There's been some hard times, where Dayton hasn't had success on the court, and it's never wavered in terms of fans showing up, and supporting the team through thick and thin. And when I came back as a head coach, to hear people say, hey, welcome back. When I was a kid, I watched you play. My parents used to bring me to the games to watch you play. Now I bring my kids to watch the Flyers play. That's a legacy. That's a part of what the community's all about. And then the relationships that you hear people have with the people they sit next to, that they've grown up with watching Dayton Flyer basketball. So it's really ingrained in the community.
The thing that's really cool about it is that Dayton can have down years, and that doesn't affect the way that the fan base follows it, because there's other programs where, you know, they'll have runs of 2, 3, 4, 5 years where you're selling out, and all of a sudden their home gyms are a lot of fun to go to and loud and rowdy, and then one down season and all of a sudden it's not the cool thing to do anymore. Like, there's a level of tradition involved that dates back beyond just, you know, the last year or two.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd agree with you that we can have down seasons. That probably wouldn't be good for me.
Yeah, I mean, he just said this in the same conversation that the ticket offices, the phones are ringing because they're saying, "Hey, I'd like to try to get a couple more tickets," because Rob Doster said it's going to be the best team we've had since 2020. I mean, you have really set them up here.
I'm just trying to give a level of expectation, right?
No, but
set the
you're
bar
right.
high.
I mean, I think it's a love affair that our community has with Dayton Flyer basketball.
Yeah, it's special. One thing that was really special, Billy Donovan got inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he brought you up. You know, among other things, when getting inducted, you were there.
Yeah.
And Springfield's a special place.
Yeah, it is.
How special was that night for you?
That was one of the best nights of my life in terms of being involved in the game of basketball, just because of number one, who Billy is, you know, what he's all about and the way he does it. And I think his speech, it exemplified who he is, you know, and he basically gave everyone credit for, I think the words he used was there was no evidence, you know, to give him the opportunities that he got throughout his career. But the commonality was everything that he was involved in became successful, right? And I know I wouldn't be sitting here today had he not given me the opportunity to believe in me as a young head assistant coach to come onto his staff at Marshall. And so just to see, you know, former players from Marshall, players and administrators from Florida, people from the OKC Thunder, and then the group that came from the Chicago Bulls all together to celebrate him, you know, I think it speaks to his legacy.
Some rapid fire here. We've been asking players all day. The 3 artists on your pregame playlist.
All right, so first I'm going Drake. He's just always been number one for me. Number 2, I'm going to go NBA Youngboy. And then number 3, I'm going to do Lil Baby.
When you were playing, who were the artists on your pregame playlist?
It was vinyl records. I don't even know if we had I don't know if we had Walkmans back then. I don't even think Walkmans had been invented back then.
What do you think of that?
I don't even know what that is.
You know what a Walkman is?
No.
You don't know what a Walkman is?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Wait, I got to continue with this then. I got to
You got to
continue.
do it.
Hobby or hidden talent?
I'm a really good bowler.
Wow.
Yes.
It's the highest score.
I've gotten close to 200 before.
Has the team gone out?
Yeah, we have.
Do you bowl?
Not well.
What's your hobby or hidden talent? I got to hear this.
So lately, I've taken up biking. My wife and I will get out and we'll bike.
I like it. What's the phrase or expression that you hear from coach in practice, or that's safe, or expression where you know I just screwed up. I better get back on track here.
It's a good one.
Be careful.
I would say he uses like "you will recover" a lot. When we get tired, he'll say like he say you'll recover to show like other teams we're not tired. So that's the first thing that came to mind.
It's preseason, right?
Yeah.
we got to get in shape.
That's what I'm talking about. The Flyers are in shape. They're ready for a big year. We appreciate both of you guys.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks,
We
Coach.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.